Stuffy had at the age of 20, he's got himself a full-time position, and he takes full advantage of it. He was probably the only baseball player ever to steal first base. And this happened because of it happened in Boston at the Huntington Avenue grounds where the Red Sox played before they opened up Fenway Park in 1912. Well, in 1911, Stuffy's 20, and he's the first baseman for the Athletics. And the Athletics are playing in Boston. And Ban Johnson, who was the president of the American League, was getting upset. Ban Johnson believed that no 9-inning baseball game should ever take more than 2 hours to play. You imagine if Ban Johnson was around today. So he's looking at ways we got to speed the game up. And one thing he thought about was that between innings, pitcher was entitled to throw 7 warm-up pitches before play resumed. And Ban Johnson figured, well, this is a waste of time. The pitch is warmed up anyway. What does he need 7 warm-up pitches for? So he put in a new rule saying that to the umpires that as soon as the first batter was ready to get into the batter's box, the game was to resume. So this game in Boston, the Red Sox were behind the Athletics 6-3 after 7 innings, and Stuffy's leading off the top of the 8th. So he decides he's going to give Ban Johnson's new rule a test. So as soon as the Red Sox made the last out in the bottom of the 7th, Stuffy rushes the dugout, grabs his bat, and runs to home plate and winks at the umpire, Mr. Evans. And Leo Carger, who was the Red Sox pitcher, goes out to the mound, and Les Nunemaker, who was the catcher, puts his mask on and gets behind the plate. And Carger goes into his motion to throw a warm-up pitch. Well, just as he goes into his motion, Stuffy jumps into the batter's box, swings at the soft toss, and whacks it out into the outfield, where the outfielders, the Red Sox players being behind, are kind of just discouraged, and they're sort of jogging out to their positions. Well, the ball goes between the left fielder and the center fielder, and they aren't paying any attention to it. They figure it's just a loose baseball. So Stuffy takes off. He's running the bases, first, the second. By the time he's around second, the Boston infielders are yelling to the outfielders, get the ball. But Stuffy makes it home, looks at the umpire, and the umpire signals home run. Well, that did not go over too well with Patsy Donovan, who was the Red Sox manager. He comes charging out to Evans and saying, how can it be a home run? My fielders weren't in position. I didn't hear you call play. But now Evans figures, that he's just following Ban Johnson's new rule. So he says, well, I called it a home run. I'm calling it a home run. Well, Patsy Donovan says, okay, I'm playing the game under protest. So they get the protest, that means that he and the umpire both have to write a letter to Ban Johnson explaining the situation. Well, when it gets to Ban Johnson's desk, now he's in a kind of a dilemma because he realizes maybe that the Red Sox were right, but if he rules in favor of the Red Sox, he's ruling against his own rule. Besides, it just made the score 7-3 instead of 6-3. So it didn't really affect the final score any. So it went down in the record books as a home run for Stuffy. So he actually stole all 4 bases. But Stuffy went on to have quite a career. After the 1917 season, Connie Mack had to break up his team, sell off his stars, and he traded Stuffy to the Red Sox, so he got there in time for the 1918 pennant-winning season with Babe Ruth. So Stuffy started out playing third base for the Red Sox because the their third baseman had gone into the Army. A lot of the players in 1918 had gone into the military. So their Red Sox still had their first baseman, but they didn't have a third baseman. So Stuffy was asked to play third. But then by May, the first baseman had gone into the Army. So Stuffy goes back to first. And that was the year the World Series almost was not played, because the Secretary of War ruled that the season had to end by Labor Day. Otherwise, the players would be subject to what they call the work or fight order. I mean, either you went into the military or you worked in a facility that produced war materials. So it looked as though the World Series wouldn't happen. The Red Sox were in first place on Labor Day, and the Cubs in the National League. So the commissioners wrote to the Secretary of War and said, you know, hey, a lot of people, including soldiers, follow baseball, and they really want to see a World Series. You know, can't you waive your rule for to allow the World Series to be played? So he did. He said we'll allow the two pennant winners will have a 10-day waiver to play the World Series. So that was how it actually did get to be played. They played the first to cut down on the travel. They were playing the first 3 games in Chicago. Then they would take a special train called the Commissioner's Special back to Boston and finish the series at Fenway Park. Well, for some reason, instead of playing the games at the Cubs' home field, now Wrigley Field on the north side, they decided to play at the White Sox home field on the south side, which had a larger capacity. The trouble was the Cubs fans did not want to go down to the south side, and the White Sox fans could care less about seeing the Cubs. So the crowds were rather minuscule. And you know, Babe Ruth pitched the first game for the Red Sox, and they won the shutout. And the Cubs won the second game, and then the Red Sox won the third game to go ahead 2-1. Now comes the train back to Boston. Well, they couldn't find Babe Ruth. After the third game, the Babe had taken off to one of his favorite bordellos in Chicago. But apparently he told Stuffy where he was going. Stuffy was allegedly his roommate. So when they couldn't find Ruth, then Stuffy led them to where he was, and by that time the Babe was 40 sheets to the wind. They managed to pour him aboard the train and get back to Boston. He pitched the 4th game and won it. But the 5th game almost didn't get played because the players went on strike. The Lords of Baseball had ruled that only the players would share in only the proceeds from the first 4 games. That was to prevent any possibility of collusion in extending the series so that the players would get a bigger cut. And since they also had ruled that year that the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place teams would get a piece of the World Series action, the players figured that they were getting nothing. So they refused to take the field for the 5th game till Van Johnson, who was drinking at a hotel in Kenmore Square, went down, and he got the Red Sox together and saying, oh, the people are all here, and the soldiers are here, and you've got to play, and so they finally agreed to play. The Cubs won, but then the Red Sox won the 6th game. They won the players got a very small payoff for the World Series that year.